like you to close your eyes, and I would like you to think of a beautiful, productive, thriving marine ecosystem. So it doesn't have to be here in Australia, it can be just about anywhere. So I'll just give it a few seconds for you to form a mental image. All right, now you can open your eyes, and I would like you to raise your hand if you've pictured something that involved coral reef or something tropical, maybe a turtle or maybe a whale shark. All right. So a lot of you, so I'm in the right room. Because I want to change that. I want to change the perception that people have when they think of productive, thriving marine environment, because a lot of our temperate marine ecosystems are very underappreciated and not a lot of people know about them. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about the beauties and the beasts of the Great Southern Reef. The Great Southern Reef is the southern part of Australia. So it's a series of interconnected reef systems that span about 8,000 kilometres in the southern part of Australia, so from New South Wales all the way to Western Australia. And it has some truly, truly incredible species that display all sorts of very cool adaptations to deal with the pressures they have to deal with in the marine environment. So the way this is going to run is going to be a bit like a game. So I'll introduce a species to you, and I'm going to see if you can guess its superpowers or adaptations. But I think they're really cool and they really deserve the title of superpower. All right, so we'll start with this beautiful fish on the screen. It's called the leafy sea dragon. So the leafy sea dragons are found in South Australia and Western Australia, and they essentially, on the screen, like it's pretty obvious, but believe me, if you dive and look for sea dragons, they're actually really hard to find. They have all these fleshy bits that looks like seaweed, and they sort of rock back and forth in the current, and that makes them really hard to find. All right, so superpowers. Is it A, it can dislocate its jaws to eat prey as big as its head? I'll go through all the propositions, and then I'll ask you to give me a cheer for the answer that you think it is. So B, it can orientate all its fleshy appendages or the fleshy bits it has, depending on the currents, to swim faster. C, the males take care of the eggs and can keep up to 300 eggs on their tails. Or B, none of the above. So cheer for A? No one. Cheer for B? All right. Cheer for C? And D? I think you got that right. So leafy sea dragons, they're closely related to seahorses, and I guess one of their most famous adaptation, if you know anything about seahorses, is that the males get pregnant because, they're doing life right. So then when they're ready, the males and females will go into a mating ritual, and the female will pass on the eggs to the male, and they have little cup-like indentation along their tails to all the eggs, and so up to 300 eggs at a time, which is pretty impressive. Unfortunately, they have so many because a lot of them just don't make it. All right, next up we've got the giant cuttlefish, and that is a species that can reach about 1 metre in length, and they come together in parts of the coast like South Australia and Whyalla famously, and they're there to breed, and they can do very mesmerising display, and it happens in just a few metres of water, so if you can brave the cold water, you can actually see it. It's not a deep sea kind of thing. All right, so its superpowers. A, males can use the bone in their bodies to fight off other males and gain access to female. So you might have heard of cuttle bone. It's not actual bone, but it's just the name that it gets. You can find that on the beach sometimes if you go for wanders, and it's white and oblong. B, it can display different colorations on the right and left sides of its body. C, it can make itself really flat so it blends in with the seafloor. Or D, all of the above. Give it a cheer for A. You guys are so good. B. C. And D. Right. right, interesting. So this one was actually B. Yeah. So what's interesting about cuttlefish, so they have structures on their skin that they can expand and contract, and that essentially shows different pigments in different concentrations, so they can change color really quickly. So let's say there are a lot of threatening males over here, and I'm a cuttlefish, and I want to advertise to them that, you know, they should stay away from me because I'm dangerous. And over there's a female, and I want to impress the female and, you know, look all cool and relaxed. So yeah, they can do that. They have different signals on different sides of their bodies. Next up, we have the flounder. Just look at it. So there's actually different species, but I'll just talk about flounders in general. It's part of the flatfish. I think I don't have to explain that to you. And let's just have a look. So A, it can swim upside down to confuse predators. B, the ray on its side fins can anchor in the sand to trap prey underneath its body. C, it can change sex several times throughout its lifetime. Or D, its eyes change position and the shape of its skull changes as it goes from juvenile to adult. So who think it's A? B? C? Or D? Oh, you guys are so good. Yes, it was D. So, all right, let me tell you how this works. So, as a baby flounder, it actually looks like a normal fish with eyes on both sides of its body and just what you would picture as a normal fish. And as it changes from this baby phase to adults, and as it lays down on the seafloor for the rest of its life, it's one of its eyes, either the right side or the left side, will migrate across its face and sort of join up with the other eye, and it's shaped and its skull flattens, and then it looks like this. Why do we think that's happening? Well, there's a few theories out there, but my favorite one is that it's so the juveniles and the adults are in different parts of the water column, and the adults don't actually, you know, accidentally swallow the juveniles. Are they laying in the sand next to them, being all small and not visible? So that's the flounder. And next up, we'll go with the thousand dumpling squid. Yeah, right? Yeah, adorable name, adorable little creature. It's about this size, and it just is a delight to underwater or divers, underwater photographers that go out at night looking for these creatures when they hunt, and they're all beautiful with all these colors that you can see. All right, superpowers. A, it has a light organ filled with bacteria that helps cancelling out its silhouette, making it hard for predators to see. B, it uses its arms to rake sand grains all over itself and uses mucus as a glue to keep the sand together. C, it can squirt ink at predators to confuse them. Or D, all of the above. So cheer for A. Cheer for B. Cheer for C. Cheer for D. All right, you're doing so good. It is D. And fun fact, so this light organ, which is located in their gill cavity, so they're filled with bacteria, but when baby dumpling squids are born, they don't have the bacteria. And a dumpling squid is perhaps about, I don't know, a quarter of the size of the fingernail on my pinky, right? So tiny, tiny little blob going about. And it actually has to hunt for this bacteria and go about and find this bacteria, which I think is pretty impressive because no one is out there to show it how it's done, and it has to figure it out all by itself. Next up is the giant spider crab. And because no talk about the Great Southern Reef is complete without talking about the giant spider crab. I am biased because this is my study species, and essentially what I'm trying to do is to solve the mysteries behind this incredible phenomenon where they come together in very big numbers in winter, and what they're doing at that time, it's called molting. So they have a hard shell on top of their bodies, and that acts a bit like an armor that prevents them from growing. So they have to shed that, and then they're soft and vulnerable to predators. So that's the reason why we think they come together in such big numbers, is to seek safety in numbers. So superpowers. A, it has sensors in its legs that it burrows in the sand to sense vibration from other crabs and locate them. B, it can leave the water to go hunt and land when food availability is low. C, it can grab other crabs and rub them against their bodies to get rid of parasites. Or D, none of the above. Give a cheer for A, for B, for C, for D. Pretty even here. The right answer was D. So there's not a lot that's known about the crabs, but we think that the way they locate each other is by sensing chemicals that the crabs emit in the water column and just sort of follow that trail. Unlike some octopuses, they can't hunt on land, but some marine life can do that, like octopuses. And yeah, just a very cool creature that we need to study to know more about. The next one is, its nickname is actually Shaun the Sheep. I kid you not. And Shaun the Sheep is what's called a cephaloglossan. It's a type of sea slug, and it's tiny, but if you can find it, it's just a delight every single time, because just look at it. All right, so A, it can regrow its tentacles, so the bits sticking out on top of the head, if they're severed by predators. It can rely on photosynthesis to get food. It can leave a trace of mucus in the sand for potential mates to find it where the numbers are low. It can bury itself in the sand to hide from predators when it sleeps. Give a cheer for A, for B, for C, for D. All right, pretty even again. So this is B. All right, so let me explain how this works. So Shaun the Sheep essentially has like a dagger-like tongue, and it can slice open algal cells, and with its cheek muscles suck up, like a straw, suck up the plastids, which has the elements that do the photosynthesis, and essentially keep those elements alive in their bodies so that they can do photosynthesis when food is not around. And they can do that up to 10 months. So for 10 months, they don't have to eat. They can just rely on photosynthesis, which I think is pretty cool. Our last one is a little penguin. So that's a bird that looks like it's flying underwater, and it's the only species of penguins that we have nesting in Australia, and it's the smallest of all penguin species. So superpowers. A, it uses oil from a gland situated near its bum to waterproof its feathers. B, one of its 3 eyelids act like goggles, allowing it to see and hunt underwater. C, some of its feathers are structured so that they trap air under its plumage, providing insulation when hunting. Or D, all of the above. Give a cheer for A, for B, for C, and for D. All right, you got it right. Well done. All right, so it's a very cool species. It has all these crazy adaptations that make it a very efficient predators. It goes hunting. It's waterproof, so it has a gland called oropigeal gland right on its bum, and it sort of rubs its beak around it and just put it all over its plumage, and that's how they're waterproof for most of the time. But the bummer for penguins is that they do what's called a catastrophic molt, which means they lose all of their feathers at once. So they have to go back on land, hide in a burrow so they're away from predators, and literally for a couple of weeks watch all their feathers fall. and grow back again. But at that time, they can't be in the water because they're not waterproof, so they have to fast, and they can actually lose almost half of their body mass. And then once that's done, they're pretty happy to go back to the sea and build these reserves again. So that's the little penguin, and that's the last species that I'll talk about. But I want to leave you with two things. There's two things that I would love you to do. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the photographers that have provided images for this presentation. And I would love you to follow them on social media. They put amazing content out there to increase appreciation for our marine life. And I think they deserve a cheer. Matt Testoni also has a Sea Creatures podcast, which is very fun and informative. And a lot of these photographers are either on Facebook or Instagram. High on Ocean on Facebook. I post about marine life, but also post about how people can get involved in interacting with marine life and all cause citizen science activity. So that's the first thing I'd love you to do. And the second thing I would love you to do is to have conversations with others. If you had a favorite species from tonight, go and tell someone about it. So marine life and these marine ecosystems, they do so much for us. They're vital for our economy, for our well-being, for our cultural identity, but it's very underappreciated, and there's a lot we don't know about it. So the more people that go out there and talk about marine life in temperate ecosystems, the better we can appreciate it, and the better we can push for research, for funding, to go out there and study this marine life. There's a vast majority of these species that live here and nowhere else in the world, so if they're gone forever. And that's very special, and that's what we have to look after. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for starting conversations about marine life, and I'll take any questions.
Super interesting. Lots of cute animal photos. Thank you so much, Dr. Elodie. Do we have any questions from the audience for the doctor? Right here. Why did you choose the spider crab as your species to study?
Because there's so little that's known about them. They're so mysterious. So essentially anything I can find I can publish about, I guess. But no, I guess just the mystery of... So this phenomenon that I showed earlier happens every year. It's been happening for decades and decades and decades. It's been featured in BBC Blue Planet 2, Magical Land of Oz, several documentaries, and yet there is nothing, almost nothing in the scientific literature about them. So their whole life cycle is a mystery. This phenomenon, like we know a little bit about the molting. We don't even know how they reproduce. We don't know what they eat. We don't know what eats them. It's just a whole mystery, really.
Very smart move. Yes, another question. What's the coolest superpower of a sea creature that you know about?
Oh my God, it's like being asked to choose your favorite child, isn't it? I don't know that I'd choose a single superpower, but I think the sails and dumpling squid, with all of these different adaptations and the light organs and the camouflage and changing colors and, hunting for this bacteria all alone when you're a baby squid and things like that. I just think it's just such a lovely bunch of super cool adaptations.
All right, got time for another one at the back. Yes. Where's the start and the end of the Great Southern Reef?
Start and the end. So essentially the border between New South Wales and Queensland, and all the way to Kalbarri in West Australia. So essentially a whole southern coast of Australia, and including Tasmania.
All right. think out of questions. Going once, going twice. One more, yes.
The land mass of Australia used to be a lot bigger. Sea levels lower and average will be more like that. So what are you going to say about that?
About marine life.
No, indigenous cultural heritage.
Yeah. What's left of Indigenous cultural heritage? Yeah, well, not as much as, and I don't think we know all that much about how, First Nations people interacted with marine life, and that's one question that I have about spider crabs as well. But yeah, what remains essentially is also important for cultural heritage.
I'll actually add on to that because I read very coincidentally, a really awesome book by a wildlife scientist, Dr. Vanessa Perotta, book called Humpback Highway. It's all about the humpback migrations all around the world and particularly in Australia. And she goes into a lot of detail about how we're constantly coming out with this new science about where humpbacks go and things like that. But we're basically proving what was already told and already known for tens of thousands of years. So it's not so much that culture is like incorrect or gone. It's just that we're not talking about it. We're just kind of reinventing the wheel a bit. So it's definitely still there. We just need to acknowledge it a bit more, I think. And I think we'll call it there. So thank you, Dr. Elodie. Round of applause.